recording.
Woo! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk Openly. I'm in a surprisingly cheerful mood tonight. And it's so great to be joined by my dear friend Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hi, Jack. Hi, everybody out there. Why is it a surprise?
I guess because I didn't feel cheerful earlier, but such is life. God, it's just such a I feel just hit by multiple trucks all day, the trucks of anxiety and then the trucks of actually I'm fine, and that feels good.
And then you got hit by a truck, the happiness truck just now.
Yeah. Well, happy because I'm here tonight and talking with you. It's so great. And you're phoneless, right? Because I've been trying to contact you, and then I got a response yesterday from a different number, and you have lost. Is it you lost your phone, or did
I didn't lose my phone. So no, I have it. It is just a totally black screen though. It won't turn on. So what happened actually, so I was on vacation since I left Thursday and came back yesterday. I was with my kids down in San Diego.
Nice.
Oh my God, phenomenal. But at one point, so we had on the drive down there, had stopped somewhere for like fast food, and my daughter had a cup and put it into like the cup holder. We left it there overnight, didn't throw it away. I didn't know those cups leaked. So next day I am like driving somewhere and I put the thing into the cup holder and didn't realize the cup holder was just plumb full of water. And then like the phone started acting up, and I'm like, so I take it out and I'm like, it says like, oh, there's something in the port. There's something wrong with it, and it's really acting funny. And mind you, it had a few cracks and stuff already. Yep. And so I am like looking, I couldn't figure it out. And then I was like, why is it wet? And then I look into the cup holder and it's just like, I don't know, inches of water. So there was no soaking it in rice. There was nothing like that. The phone's dead. And it was such a reprieve. It was such a, I have that thing on me all the time, right? Like I'm like a cyborg, right? Like it's always, always, always with me.
Yeah.
And no matter what I do with the notification settings, it is always dinging at me, something from work or somebody texting, or even just stupid apps sending messages, no matter how much I tell them not to send it to me. And so the last several days have been this really beautiful it's been quiet. It's been like really, really quiet and so nice. Like I'm thinking that when I get the new phone arrives, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set it on silent, and just like leave it on silent and then just check it when I feel like checking it. I think that'll go a long way to restore or get some basic sanity on my end. That phone is something else, I'm telling you. I don't really notice it until it's gone, and then I'm like, wow, that thing is constantly going.
Yeah, and it's like always, it's always there to distract at just the right time. I definitely use it as like if I'm kind of segueing into something, like it's a transition time thing. Where it's like, okay, I've got like 3 minutes before I've got to leave the ferry. Maybe I could just like hop on here and see if I've got any new emails. And I pretty much know I'm not going to have new emails, but it's still like the compulsion to check, which is really, it's just this kind of like a unsatisfactory feeling of like, I've just got to continually check back in with this thing that really doesn't give me that much. I mean, there's certainly so much use in it. I definitely it has a lot of utility, but in terms of like the things that I'm really trying to cultivate, such as peace of mind and stability, it's like, ooh, it really, really messes with those things.
Yeah, no kidding. It really does. And I think it's a lot like all the other bad habits that we can pick up along the way, where there is something inherent. Like when we first discover it or use it, we're like, wow, this thing really is beneficial, that it's so amazing, it can help me in so many ways. But then we sort of like form a relationship with it, and things change, right? And like the phones change, more and more stuff, more apps, more people, more whatever starts happening on there. Our lives change, our desires, our needs, our situations change, but somehow like we keep this habit there of having the phone nearby. And I think that like when you get a little break from it like this, it really it just sort of like, I don't know, like it shines such a bright light on what's going on. Maybe it's the other way around, get a little dark spot.
Yeah.
But I'm super motivated. My nephew actually he intentionally, I think that they're sort of like the younger generation, I don't know what they're called, but like the people who are like 20 years old or so now,
Uh-huh.
I can see among quite a few of them this sort of rebellion against technology, which I really like. I like what I see there. And what I think is kind of cool about my nephew is he's got this tiny little phone. It's still a smartphone, but the screen is so small that it makes it pretty much useless for anything other than very basic messaging and stuff like that. He can access all the apps, but he doesn't because there's no point in it.
Yeah.
And so he has all the accessibility that he needs if he really wants it, but it's such a tiny little thing, and it's so pretty much useless for any kind of entertainment, that it really doesn't bother him, right? And he can like leave it off for a long period of time, much to the disappointment of other people sometimes who are trying to reach him.
Yeah.
But I think it goes a long way to help him stay sane. So I'm kind of between his example and this little reprieve that I'm enjoying from the phone, I'm stoked. I'm ready to change things up with my relationship to the phone.
I love that. That's so great. And yeah, you mentioned the disappointment that some might feel in trying to contact him, which, we're going to be talking later about disappointment that we feel with others and how maybe, just maybe that's related to somewhat unrealistic expectations, but we'll talk about that. But I think, when we really reflect on our relationship with technology, as well as, any of the other distractions that we use, it's pretty evident that those relationships are disappointing, that those are kind of like the real disappointing things.
Yeah.
It's just our like habitual behavior where it's like, man, it's just like, I'm not getting anything much out of this. I'm
Right.
putting in a lot of time and effort and energy and attention to this, and what am I getting back but kind of like anxiety and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
really.
it reminds me, I mean, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but it actually reminds me in some respect to like uh, alcohol addiction or other types of addictions, where I know that one of those things that happens when people are using is that there's this sort of sense of like, well, everybody I know is using as well, right? And I don't know how I'm going to go out and be part of society, and how am I going to be able to go out to dinner and go to parties and do all the things that I normally do? How am I going to be connected to all these people when they're all drinking, for example, and I'm not, right? I'm going to be an outlier and I'm not going to get along. And there's all this sort of fear and social pressure. People ask, well, why aren't you drinking? That kind of stuff. Well, why don't you answer your phone? Why don't you have a smartphone? You don't have an Apple? Oh, you have an Android? All that kind of nonsense that's going on around the technology, I think is sort of indicative of our unhealthy, sort of collective unhealthy relationship.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And that, we've talked about peer pressure before too.
Mm-hmm.
How much peer pressure is, involved in keeping up appearances on social media and all that. I'm just I'm over it. I'll check on Facebook to like see how my friends are doing. Which makes me sound apparently so old because now Facebook is like
Geriatric, Jack.
I know. But yeah, like yeah, Instagram and that type of thing, it stresses me out now.
Yeah.
I used to be really intrigued by those types of things, and I think it can be a form of expression, right? But so often it just feels like this kind of empty posturing that just doesn't feel good. So
Yeah, I think that, from my point of view, the internet and all the affiliated technology is really, like you said, wonderful for creative expression. And if you're a creator and that's your medium, I think that there's a lot of beauty and wonder and good, all kinds of healthy stuff that can come out of it. For the most part, though, everybody I know, including myself, is a passive consumer
right.
and not really using the creative aspect of it. Is not so much an expression as it is just this sort of mindless, like whatever. What do they call that?
Doom scroll.
Doom
Doom scrolling.
scrolling. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's me big time. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I got off Twitter, is that whew, you can really you can just absorb a lot of harm.
Oof, quickly too. Quickly,
Quickly, yeah.
you can mainline that crap.
Oh my, seriously, yeah, I was just thinking that, just like shoot it into your veins. It really is. But yeah.
Yeah,
Woo.
yeah.
Yeah, no
Ah,
thank you. No.
yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that you're taking a break. That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
how funny that it came out of this, what usually we'd be like, no. That kind of instance of like realizing that your phone's destroyed, which is stressful, but how beautiful.
Oh yeah. Well, the good news was I was with my kids. They both have their devices, so we weren't lost. We could use the maps and everything. They had the music library and everything. So like, it was actually really nice. I could rely on theirs rather than my own. But a great time. We went down to San Diego and we made the most of it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
We got to go snorkeling with the sea lions in La Jolla. That was really, oh my gosh, that was something else. They're like swimming right past, they're like right there, like in the water with you. It's amazing. Beautiful fish and scenery and stuff. That was really cool. We did a whale watching thing where we got to see a blue whale. And yeah, I've never seen the biggest animal to ever exist on Earth, right? As far as we know. That was really neat. And like tons of dolphins, like just gorgeous. And we did a horseback riding thing too, which was one of those things where we were all disappointed afterward. Yeah, we were all looking forward to it. It was a bit of an adventure, I guess, a little rougher than we thought it was going to be, and led to some personal injuries and
Yeah.
insect bites and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it was a lesson, that's for sure. But oh my gosh,
it was a rough ride.
it was a bit of a rough ride, but my goodness, I love that area. It's so beautiful. And while it was 108 degrees in Sacramento, where I live, it was like in the high 70s and low 80s in San Diego.
Nice.
Just gorgeous.
Perfect. That's great.
Yeah, I didn't. It was interesting. I didn't get to. So since our last show, the days where I've been home, my meditation state is like, just on point. There was no seated meditation during this trip, but there were lots of opportunity for sort of like mindful presence. So I got to enjoy that aspect of it.
Great. I love it. That's wonderful. So glad you got to do that. And
yeah, it was awesome. I'm really happy I got to get to spend some time with my kids too, in a nice, healthy way.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Although some of the music that they listen to on the drive, I don't know if that's so healthy, but
but hey, remember what we were listening to?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I nod my head.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember there was one time that my sister and I were like blasting music at home before my mom got home. We thought that we were like in the clear. We were playing Rage Against the Machine.
Oh yeah.
And it was like the part where they're like like, fuck you, don't do what you tell me, like, and just like just crescendoing.
Yeah.
And that was like, my mom came home right at that time.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it was perfect timing. But
I love Rage.
Yeah, I can imagine my mother being alarmed.
Yeah. Oh no, I thought my kids were going to be singing Christian hymns.
Right. I was just praying upstairs.
Yeah.
After school. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. I can just picture you though.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Both kind of little punks, but good kid.
It's still there. The punk is still there.
Yeah.
Even if you're surfing Facebook with the old people. Tell me
They
a little.
serve multiple purposes, right? It's like I can
Right.
still look cool, but it's also really easy.
That's right. Exactly. Best of both worlds. That's what comes
Exactly.
with the experience, huh?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about yourself. What have you been up to, Jack?
It's, the grind. Nothing too exciting. I still haven't nailed down an internship for the fall, which is stressful. But I'm also just kind of rolling with the disappointment, I guess. And noticing my mind, like like every time I check my email, I hear like these kind of like grumbly voices starting, to bubble up about, the people who aren't getting back to me. And so it's kind of perfect for tonight that we're talking about, being disappointed
Yeah.
with other humans. And thinking that, like, but this internship, like, this is your top priority. Like, my 9-month internship at your organization should be your number one priority, right? So it's just funny, a little kind of recognition there. But yeah, in terms of training, I've been doing a lot of shamatha with some kind of like a different approach. Um, and that's because I'm reading a text with the Buddha Dharma study program that Lama has with some students, and it's interesting to yeah, just see how the application of different techniques has engaged my mind. It's like kind of enlivened my mind. So that's been nice, because I've felt quite stale in my shamatha practice, which, is a sign that I'm not really engaging with applying antidotes and whatnot. But I do think that having like kind of different objects or different approaches can be, I don't know, it just I guess just added some different flavor to my
Yeah.
training.
Spice it up a
Yeah,
little.
spice it up. So that's been interesting. And I noticed that my focus is just a little bit sharper. So that feels good, because I've felt quite dull in my meditation
Nice.
recently. Yeah, so that's been fun to watch and observe. Um, Otherwise, things just keep rolling.
Yep.
I'm giving a talk on depression on Sunday.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. And I hope folks can make it. It's gonna probably be very similar to, things that we talk about on the show. But yeah, talking specifically a lot about disappointment, but just kind of the everyday malaise that many of us are in,
Yeah.
with the kind of roller coaster of ups and downs that yeah, we can just get so carried away with. So certainly it's very relevant to my life, and I hope yeah, it can be useful for others too. So I'm
Are
looking
you
forward to that.
are you finding that preparing for the talk itself is useful to you?
Oh yeah. I mean, Llama gives me the right ideas for the right time. Like, we started talking about this talk maybe a few months ago in Darshan, and you know, initially he was kind of talking about the depression we can feel on the path, like maybe that we just get stuck in this place where it's more comfortable to just stay put than to make change, even though like it's really awful, and we may even
Right.
recognize that it's awful, but we don't know anything else, and so it's like I don't want to move from that place, because this is my little cave, right? um so we were kind of talking about that, but then a couple months ago it shifted more to like talk about like everyday depression, like just some samsaric experience of of these kind of attachments to the things going well, aversion to the things going not well. And I think that was likely, and he sees me very well, and I think he just saw that I'm yeah, just really kind of disappointed, I guess, and frustrated and unhappy with various aspects of my life, which when I really talk about it, it totally feels absurd.
Yeah.
And when I really think about it and bring some gratitude to my life, it's like I have so many good things happening. And a little bit, one thing that's been I've been playing with is kind of meditating on, like, what if this was it? Like, what if this was just my life, right? Because it is, right? It actually is just my life. So what if I just really like accepted that rather than feeling like it needed to be different? And that doesn't
Oh,
sound
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
maybe I feel like that's so simple, but it was very profound for me to just say, what if this was just it? This is just it. And can I be okay with that and maybe actually like fully engage with everything that's happening, including all of the little frustrations and
Right.
absurdities and
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's what I've been kind of
Yeah, I love it.
reading out.
Not like in the sense like I love it because I'm happy that that's what you're in, but more like I love it because all of that is sort of fodder for your, your transformations, right? If you're going to perform alchemy, that's your lead, right? You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, this life, this crap right here, all of this, right? Like, really, like, is this like, okay, this is what I'm working with, okay, what if this is it, what do I do with it,
Yeah.
how do I turn this kind of a life into a life that's worth living?
Right. Right. Yeah. And to like what you said, like um I can't change lead, into a different metal, right? But well, maybe that's the point of alchemy, right? But alchemy is turning lead into gold. But let's say I can't change lead into nickel, right?
Okay.
But I can change both of those into gold or whatever alchemy,
Yeah.
happens.
Right.
But my point is like, uh, this is the material of my life.
That's
Like
right.
I can't change it into something else. And inevitably, yes, it does change, because that is the nature of things. But I'm not going to suddenly be like a different person or
Right.
like the person that I imagine myself being, or this kind of like calm, serene,
Right. Right.
like
No.
that's not me. That's not
No, you are you. That's what
I'm
you.
me. Yeah. And so I really love, like, Lama talks every once in a while about how that is kind of a stage that we get to, is just being like, oh, okay, yeah, this is
Yeah.
me. This is it.
Look at that.
This is it.
Yeah. Right.
And then we can transform that into the gold. But yeah,
Or at the very least, we can not get so attached to the this is me, right? Overly identified with it. We can get some objectivity. He does this thing where he puts the hand close to the face and then moves it away,
yeah, yeah,
right? To sort of illustrate the process where like there's this heavy identification up front where like, oh, this is me and this is my life and it sucks and it's always sucked and it's always gonna suck and no, that kind of thing, right? And that's who I am, right? Like that's a depressing sort of idea. But there's this sort of like, yeah, acceptance, of course, acceptance. Yeah, that is how it is, right? I do live in a samsaric world. Yes, indeed, that's my experience, and I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it or lie to myself or anybody else about it.
yeah,
But at the same time, that's not me, because there isn't really a me here, and things are going to change. They always do change. Sometimes there's a happy me, sometimes there's a depressed me. Yeah, look at that.
yeah. And I don't want to reject any of it. I think
No,
that's the
no.
part that feels so sad, is that there's so much rejection happening
Right.
on a day-to-day basis. And it's like, no, I want to feel it all. I want
Oh
to
yeah.
bring it all in. So yeah.
Yeah. You want to be with what is, even if it's not so pleasant.
Exactly. Yes. I'm
Nice,
gonna
John.
feel like I need you at my talk so that you can like pull out all the different things.
Well, your talk is my birthday present to myself.
Yay!
So Sunday is my birthday, and my kids are like, yeah, we're gonna take you out, like we're gonna do all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, I have one thing I need to do, only one thing, and that's to attend your
Oh,
talk.
oh, that's so nice. I'm so glad you're gonna be there. That's I do love being able to see my friends in the audience. And maybe I won't be able to see everyone in the temple so well, but yeah.
You'll know, you'll feel us. We'll be there. We'll
Yeah.
buoy your spirit.
Yay. I like buoyed spirits. Thank you. All right. Well, should we check out some oh gosh, Lojong. I was like,
Yeah.
Ren.
Let's do it.
Uh,
Let's do a little bit of Lojong.
Tonglen. Lojong.
Lojong. No, you had her. You got it. You got it. We could do Tonglen too if you want.
That's true. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Always could use some Tonglen.
We are on the Random Lojong slogan page on lionsroardharmacenter.org, and we're going to push the big orange button that says Random Lojong slogan.
Aha.
New one.
Number 14, which reads, to see confusion as the four kayas, the protection of emptiness is unsurpassable. Okay, let me read that again. To see confusion as the four kayas, the protection of emptiness is unsurpassable. Okay, I'm going to need to have one of these teachers break it down for us. So this is Tralag Kyabgon. The kayas, or aspects of Buddha's being, help us to maintain an enlightened perspective on our world. The Nirmanakaya is the physical appearance of a Buddha's being. The Sambhogakaya is the embodiment of the wisdom qualities. And the Dharmakaya is transcendental aspect. This stuff's complicated. The kayas, like the Buddha's body,
I've
always struggled with. Anyways, Dharmakaya is inseparable from ultimate reality because everything that we perceive has the nature of emptiness. Sambhogakaya represents the interconnectedness of all things because the mental and physical are not totally independent of each other. Everything that exists, good or bad, beautiful or ugly, sacred or profane, is part of the pattern of events and processes. Nirmanakaya is how we see everything that is presented to our senses as a manifestation of emptiness. Normally, only 3 kayas are mentioned in Mahayana literature, but sometimes a 4th is included to illustrate the inseparability of these 3 aspects. This is called Swabhavivakaya, which is not a 4th body so much as a unifying concept. It signifies the fact that we should not think of the physical, mental, and transcendental aspects of a Buddha's being as 3 separate entities, but as an inseparable whole that is interdependently coalescent. So can you scroll back up to the slogan? To see confusion as the 4 kayas, the protection of emptiness is unsurpassable. So what's happening here, Daniel?
Jack, you got to tell me.
Well, okay, so here's what I'm thinking, is that when we're in a state of confusion, if we can recognize that everything that we're experiencing, including the confusion itself or the difficult situation, is empty, that does not have a permanent nature, and is dependently originated, so has arisen due to causes and conditions, then if we can see that within our confusion, then we might regain a bit of sanity, or just be able to see that confusion as emptiness. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I like it. That makes sense to me. I would say the kayas are quite difficult. They're confusing to me, but that's where it kind of makes sense, though, that there are these different aspects to reality that are described by the 3 kayas, right, and then sort of indicated, combined together as that 4th kaya, and that they're not actually all that separate. But regardless of which aspect we're looking at, emptiness is there, right? Like emptiness is there in the physical appearance of a Buddha's being. It's there in the relationship interconnectedness of all things, and it's there in how like all these senses appear. So I mean, I guess that makes sense. But my goodness, I don't think I feel qualified at all to talk about this.
I know, right? Yeah, same. I've only ever read this stuff and felt very confused while reading it.
You know what I'm going to do though? I'm going to hit the print screen button on my, there we go. And when we're done talking, I'm going to go and see if I can't learn a little bit more about this slogan. I like that about the difficult slogans because I like getting different points of view. At some point, somebody says something that makes it clear to me what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, random Lojong slogan generator.
Yeah.
You've done
There
it
we
again.
go.
And Daniel, before we proceed, I just wanted to point out that I really love your blue fingernails.
Oh, they're chipping.
I couldn't tell.
It was a 9-hour drive down to San Diego, including some time where we were stuck in traffic. And my youngest daughter was doing her nails. So I just stuck my hand back there and she did my nails. And I've gotten quite a few compliments on them. Yeah. I don't know what the other people on the horseback riding trip, the cowboys, I'm not quite sure what they thought of it. One of them complimented me, so I nice. took it well. Yeah. Nail polish has kind of a neat idea, but I don't like the impermanence of it.
I know. Yeah, it's not fun.
Just pointing.
Although it is kind of fun to chip away at it. It becomes it's like a little bit. Yeah, you peel it. Some people think that's gross, but it's kind of nice.
Huh. I'll have to get. I'm giving it a try right now. You're right. That's pretty satisfying.
It's a little fidget. Yeah.
Oh, I like it. That's why it's chipping. I'm fidgeting.
Great. Well, yeah. I mean that was the opposite of disappointment. I love hearing about your nail polish experience, but unfortunately, we can't always have lovely experiences like that, can we?
No.
Yeah, so we decided to talk about this, and I'm glad we are, because this is such a common experience, to feel disappointment in others. I'd
say it's a daily experience on my end.
Oh yes, daily indeed.
Yeah.
Was there anything that kind of prompted you around this topic?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to talk about
it? All right. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to talk about it, but I'll talk about it.
You don't have to, but
no. I just around it. Yeah. So I had a near and dear friend of mine had agreed to watch the pets while I was on my vacation to San Diego. And she took my dog into her home, really nice, but my cat stayed at the house, and the cat and the garden just needed a little bit of tending to. And when I got back home, after the long drive back home, like, oh, okay, I gotta go pick up my dog. I pick up the dog, and then she looks at me and she's like, I forgot all about the cat and the garden until last night. It's like everything's okay. I think everything's okay. The cat's alive and she's fine. And I made sure to feed her, and she had plenty of water. Everything was okay. But like, and I was just like, the feeling, oh my God.
I can feel it right now.
I was like, I was so like, I had all of this stuff, and I know that she could just see it in my face, this complete like letdown, just like, really, like, what the
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, it was pretty so like, I noticed, I noticed all the feelings, and then I was like, well, are you okay that like, what happened that you could possibly forget to take care of my cat and garden or whatever, right? Like, why couldn't you do that? And she's just like, I'm overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. And I just completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
And I noticed there was like immediately some sort of like in my mind, a little bit of sort of like blaming and whatever. There was like, but I just was like, all right, okay, I guess if everything, things are okay. If the cat's still alive, things are fine. I'm going to go home and check it out. But it was obvious, like the disappointment was palpable, you could
Yeah.
say. And so yeah, it led like I noticed like it stuck around, right? Like it was like, so I got back home and the cat was meowing and was fine. Yeah, poor little kitty. She's fine. Everything's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
No, the garden's fine.
Good.
Everything's okay, right? So like nothing bad happened there, but it did give me this opportunity to notice how the disappointment lingered like a really nasty fart, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
just stuck around. It wouldn't, and I refused to open a window for a good long while. I just sort of like wallowed in it for a bit,
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like, and I noticed I was like, all the times that I've gone over there and watched her pets and done this and done that, like all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, it continued, the story continued. Well, it means this. And, like, I don't know if I can, like, whatever. This is
I trust her
nonsense.
again. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I had like imaginary conversations with hurtful words, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
thank God it wasn't my kids I was entrusting you with, or,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Just having,
non
yeah. Yep. All the stuff.
nonsense stuff like that. Thankfully, I didn't say any of that crap out loud, or didn't whatever. But then I was like, all right, this is good fodder. This is good stuff for my practice. Everything is totally okay. That experience is in the past now. Like the event already happened, and I'm still like it's still lingering. The suffering is still here, right? And I'm going to cause more suffering for her, for me, for everybody else if I let this stuff like get out of hand. So I had a good sat with it, and just sort of watched it, and ended up, like just kind of like noticed this morning it had totally dissipated. The cat had spent the whole night laying on top of me, doing his little
Oh.
thing where like it needs you,
Yeah.
doing what
Making
are they
biscuits.
making biscuits, spent the whole night making biscuits on me.
Oh.
And so, very cute, whatever, everything's fine. And so then I made sure to reach out this morning and be like, hey, everything's okay. Right, it's fine. But it was interesting to go through the process of, like, yeah, like what do we do when we're faced with these kinds of disappointments, right? And like that was a pretty smally compared to the other kinds of disappointments, right? So I was reflecting on it before this talk. Like in that case, I had sort of like I had an expectation that was unmet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of whether it was a fair expectation or not, I think it was pretty justifiable that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had the expectation, But regardless, it was unmet, right? But there's like other reasons, right? I notice like when I think about all the other people that I have been disappointed by or still am feeling somewhat disappointed by, there's other reasons, including like changes in them or like where they have like different values. And
Yeah.
in many cases, it's like me projecting crap onto them and then being disappointed by that, right?
Yeah.
And so it was kind of funny though. I have this quote that I think is actually more to the point about the source of or the cause of this sort of disappointment. It's by Chogyam Trungpa. He said, disappointment results from the removal of illusion.
Hmm. Mm.
Yeah. You thought things were one way, or you were so attached to the idea of them being one way, that when you discover the truth of the matter, the way things actually really are, that it's this incredible sort of experience where our eyes get like everything sort of becomes very clear all of a sudden,
Yeah.
right? And that's how I felt last night when I came home. I was like, when I got back and then I heard the news, like it was very clear. Like all of a sudden I was like, oh, reality
Wow.
isn't what I thought it was,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, that's so interesting. And thank you for sharing. It really makes it alive,
Yeah.
right? But oh my gosh, I would be furious. Like the way that the way that I think about my cat, he's my baby. And that is totally a fear of mine, is that he like won't be taken care of when I'm gone. And so much so that like in the past during vacations, I would have really bad anxiety and almost not enjoy my vacation because
Sure.
I'd be worried about like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of situation.
I know.
Um,
I know.
yeah, but you know, you bring up a good point that there's like, okay, there's a couple different types of disappointments that I'm thinking about right now. Like there's the disappointment where it's like, okay, people are just crappy and, don't have the same values as I do, don't live in a way that feels ethical to me. And then there's like the types of disappointments that are like, and so these ones over here are kind of where I have unrealistic expectations about how other people should live, right? And then
Yeah.
there's like the disappointments where it's like someone actually did do something that was, harmful. And of course, the cat's okay, so it's okay, but still that there's some harm there, and they didn't do what they said they were going to do. And so it's like, it's interesting to see how I think there could be different and similar approaches to those types of disappointments,
Yeah.
where I do feel like, you know, it's important to reflect and think about, okay, what is my role in my disappointment right now? And like how much of it is realistic or how much of it is kind of like self-centered, and then moving from there saying like, okay, but I also like feel hurt by this.
Yeah.
And one thing that I find really useful is kind of like the nonviolent communication, like
Yes.
four-part
Yep.
strategy
Yep.
for these types of things, because it's like in a situation where you kind of recognize um like there's still something that feels unmet, like something needs to change, or at least I just need to get it off my chest or whatever. um and I really like it. It's so basically when you're sharing this with your friend or person or whatever, it's like you express, what did you notice, like what was the action, right, that the person did that was disappointing or harmful or whatever, and you just say the facts, right? So like in this case, like, when I came over and you told me that you hadn't seen the cat, like that's the action, right, is like you didn't see the cat. And then you would share like how you feel, or how you feel how you felt. So like, and real emotions,
Right.
not things like I felt betrayed, because betrayed implies that they were betraying you, right? But I felt distraught, I felt anxious, I felt sad, I felt disappointed, and then you share, because it conflicts with this value that I have. So whatever the value is, like, because I really value respect, or I value, what was one of the values that you felt was kind of harmed in that situation?
Well, I don't know. I think it values and needs, right?
And
So,
you,
like,
yes,
I
yes,
think that that's the other part of nonviolent communication, right? And the third step is like the needs aspect of it, because it's not so much like the values there, but rather the like, I needed somebody
yeah,
to take care of the damn cat.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so I was disappointed. I feel hurt because I thought we had an understanding. Maybe that would not be nonviolent.
Well, I needed my cat to
And
be reliably taken care of.
thank you. That's the right word.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, kind of following up with like a, would you be willing to, and then kind of sharing that, whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I think that I think I couldn't agree more. Nonviolent communication is definitely the right way um, to have that discussion with a person that's disappointing you. I think, it probably depends on the cause and the type and everything, right? Like,
Right.
for sure. In this case, it was pretty darn clear.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I'm so glad that you brought this one, because when I was thinking about this topic, I was really thinking about kind of like the situations where where I have unrealistic expectations
Right.
about the situation or about the person. And even in that situation with your friend, um, we can pull back and say, okay, like, is this person a Buddha? Like,
Yeah, right.
right? Like,
No,
are they,
no,
we're
no.
like, we're all of us, including the times that we make even deliberate mistakes, like even
Right,
let's say we do deliberate harm. Even then, like, we can say that person is not a Buddha. They're confused. We're
right.
confused about what things will make us happy and how to get our needs met. Uh, so that's one of the most important things for me to do, is a reflection on that, because otherwise I typically the way that I think about people is that they're gonna act as like compassionately and thoughtfully as like I think that they should,
Ooh,
because I'm
right.
thinking about myself, and what do I want to receive is like
Yeah,
compassion and thoughtfulness.
yeah.
And my needs are the most important needs in the world, right?
Of
And so
course.
everybody should be doing, exactly what I want them to, and believing what I believe, and getting my needs met.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
when
of
they don't
course.
do that, it's like, well, what the hell?
Exactly. Right, right. There's some anger, there's like resentment, there's all kinds of crap that can develop out of it, like I think it's interesting that like we were talking about with the nonviolent communication and just some of the other approaches to dealing with these negative emotions. The point is never to get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to like push away, for example, the feelings of disappointment. It's there for
Mhm.
darn good reason in many cases. In other cases, not so much, but it's still there. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter, right?
Yeah.
But then, like there are these different approaches that allow us to be a little bit more caring, a little bit more empathetic, more compassionate. We can be more like the Buddhas we want to be, even when we're encountering people who are not yet aware of their Buddha nature themselves,
Mhm.
right? And so, to that end, there's all these different strategies. I can imagine like so many different ways, but I like to think so. Like I've been trying to make a practice out of like regularly considering or meditating on the four immeasurables.
Mm.
Um, and I say like I'll sometimes use it just like as a like when I'm working out or whatever. I'll do the whole may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness and so on and so forth. But I was thinking about like within this kind of context of feeling sort of let down or disappointed by another person, what would it look like to apply the four immeasurables then? you
Mm.
know and would it be helpful? And in fact, what I was really happy to notice is that in just sort of as a my own, like without thinking about it, without having to go get a self-help book or call somebody, some of this came quite naturally, and I was really happy to see that. It seems like some of my practices might be paying off in that respect, just in this one instance. But like so like the loving kindness aspect of it, right? Like we want to we want to engender loving kindness both
Yeah.
towards ourselves, which is we do through honoring and respecting the fact that like being aware of our feelings and respecting that, being like, yes, it's there, accepting it, like not pushing it away, none of that, not trying to like change it into something else, but like just being like, yeah, there it is. And that's a form of loving kindness towards ourselves, that kind of acceptance. But there's also this like, everybody's trying to be happy, right? Like my good friend, oh my goodness, like, of course she's just trying to be happy, right? Just like me, right? The reason I was on vacation is because I want to be happy,
Yeah.
right? And I want my cat to be happy, and she wants my cat to be happy. Like it's actually, the fact of the matter is, like, we have this great similarity. And even if I, might be disturbed by the actions or lack of action or whatever, I can still sort of have this attitude of goodwill towards people, right?
Yeah.
Certainly towards her, and because there's other aspects of it, right? Like there's this consideration, like having gratitude for all the other wonderful things that they do, right?
Right. And also, if I can interject too, the courage, and I think uh what shows like a real true friendship is that she told you. Like
Oh yeah,
she could have
yeah.
just been like, oh God, okay, I went and fed the cat, so hopefully it's okay. I'm just
That's
gonna leave
right.
it, right?
That's thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I mean is like this sort of like having that goodwill, like not to like
Right.
be like,
Right.
oh, that defines her as a person. Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
She hates cats. She hates me. She tried to ruin. No, of course not. Actually,
Yeah.
the reason why we're good friends is because I really, admire all these wonderful characteristics about her and her willingness to help people like me. Right. So like that's like, okay. So on the one hand, this sort of loving kindness aspect of it, but the compassion was where it came up the most because turns out, I mean, so she's a single mom of two teenage daughters who runs her own business, right? And has a lot of shit on her plate, like a lot, like more than I could ever imagine. And if I had all that going on and my own animals, plus Daniel's dog running around the house and all, if I had all that going on, I could easily forget. I can
Yeah.
just totally imagine that, right? And like there was this sort of feeling where I was like, wow, like because there was this part of me that was initially when I first, got the news, I was like, really, like if all the times that you've gone on vacation or whatever and you've asked me to take care of your pets, I am so diligent. I show up and I'm right there and I do this and I'm like that. So I sort of projected my own, like, this is how I am and this is how I behave, and therefore you should be the same way. But her life is quite different than mine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like her plate is so full that I can't even imagine it. And it's like that day in and day out. Whereas I have all kinds of, moments where I don't have those kinds of heavy responsibilities and stuff that are,
Totally. Yeah.
dominating my mind. So I thought, it actually was really, I thought that was the part that was the most sort of softening where I was like, oh, right.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's a lot to ask of her. And then also, I understand why it happened. I mean, I'm not happy it happened, but Jesus, like
Yeah.
it's understandable.
Yeah, and we
You know,
can even, we can extend that to people, who maybe intentionally do harm or, do things that we disagree with, and kind of just reflect, okay, if I had this person's life, upbringing and enculturation and like and their friends and the stress that they have,
yeah,
all of that, what other life would I have? What kinds of actions, would I take? But the very actions that those people are taking, it doesn't excuse the actions, but it helps us see
yeah,
the context that people are in, where it's like, yeah, sometimes people make really horrendous choices because they can't see that there are other choices available to them.
right.
Maybe there really
Yeah.
are very limited choices. So yeah.
100%. And that brings up the one thing that I found incredibly helpful as well, without not trying to dismiss my feelings or anything like that. But there was this genuine feeling of like, I know that I feel disappointed by other people on a regular basis, but also I am constantly disappointing other people,
Totally.
constantly, right? So to like, okay, I might feel disappointed by other people a few times a day, right? Mild or maybe even somewhat major, but I disappoint other people more than way in the order of magnitude is quite large, right? It's a big difference, right? Like the fact that like right now, people that I haven't answered their phone calls and their text messages, I know, I'm actually aware through friends of friends that I currently, because I don't have a phone, am
Yeah.
disappointing a bunch of people,
Yeah.
right? I know
Yeah.
this,
It's
right?
that is something that I've noticed in my the last 5 or so years that I've been practicing Buddhism, is that I've actually I don't make as many plans now
Yes.
because I used to make all these plans and commit a whole bunch to people and then have to pull back because I'm not an extrovert. I don't have that much energy. I need to be at home in my cave, like, okay. And so,
Yeah.
that's really been something astounding. And so it's like, okay, as I develop my practice, I realized that those things are really disappointing, and that I've disappointed
Yeah.
a bunch of people when I do that
Right.
type of thing. And it's like we become
That's right.
more aware of that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to that end, like that's where, so we know that unmet expectations is it's the greatest cause of disappointment, right? Both for ourselves and when we disappoint other people. And so, for example, having a yes nature, saying, like an agreeable, wanting to please sort of nature, that's something that we might identify with, right? We want people to like us, whatever. We don't want to disappoint. We don't want to disappoint, actually, right? So
Yeah.
we might say yes to things that we really, if we really were to be honest, we maybe should say no. So, for example, my friend, instead of saying like, "Oh, Daniel has a that's the other thing. This was like a last minute thing, right? Like
Mhm.
the day before is when I decided we were going to do this vacation, right? Like I had, and so I'm like, hey, can you do this? Sure, I can do that, right? She didn't want to disappoint me, but if she'd really thought about it, she might have said, she might have been like, wow, well, I really actually don't want to disappoint you by somehow not taking care. I know that your cat and your garden and your dog and everything are very important to you, but I got a lot, and this is sort of sudden notice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She could have said that to me, but like she did, like she's trying to be helpful. She wanted to, do the right thing. And so like in the same sense, I can learn from that by like being a little bit more like aware of my own sort of needs when I'm facing commitments, right? Where other
Right.
people are
Right.
asking things of me. Just like you said, right? Like maybe we it's better to maybe not make those commitments rather than disappoint folks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Have that thoughtfulness, and what I'm hearing you say too is that care to consider, like, okay, can I really take this on right
Right.
now? Because I do love my friend and don't want to disappoint them. So I should really be thinking about this with care.
Yeah, yeah. And that's not my way, right? Like I'm just like yeah, 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 of course. And then I stress out and screw up and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff and disappoint everybody, right? Like,
Right.
so there's actually, to me, one of the beautiful things about this kind of stuff happening is what a wonderful moment it is for like self-reflection. Be
Yeah.
like, all right, what role did I play in all of this, right?
Mhm,
How did
mhm.
I, what could I have done differently? That kind of stuff. I'm not saying like it's not a blame game or anything, but just like
Right.
what a wonderful opportunity to really sit and think about it. And like the end result is this immense amount of gratitude, compassion, and like, yeah, great gratitude and compassion for my friend. And at the same time, sort of like this realization, like, dude, you got to get better at like planning, thinking ahead. I could make lists, set
Yeah.
reminders,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
No, it's great. Yeah, I love that any time that we feel that disappointment, maybe to kind of just reflect, okay, where is this,
That's right.
maybe a mirror that I can hold up to myself.
Uh,
The things that I could
yes.
be working on, so that when these things happen, which is our reality, all the time we're experiencing things that are disappointing, we can just say, oh yeah, that's life, that's
That's
reality.
right.
I need to work on my inner world to recognize that truth. And I wanted to, I think one of my favorite little kind of pith instructions that Lama has given me, is this short mantra. And he says to, when thinking of other people, to think, huh, they chose to do it that way. So whenever you experience, whether it's, being cut off in traffic, or, someone not following through with something they committed to, ah, they chose to do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. You
Huh.
know,
Huh.
and then it just puts it in perspective. Okay, we are all just crazy and stressed out sentient beings. We're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah, but what I liked about what you said right before the pith instruction there was the opportunity to use this right. Like disappointment is going to be there. it's part of the lead or the crap of life. And maybe it can't be transformed, but maybe it can be used, right? Like, so by bringing it into our practice, it can actually lead, it cannot be transformed necessarily, but it can lead to transformation, the kind that we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, it starts with ourselves. Always. Damn
Amen.
it. Daniel, this has been fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for
So
being my
fruitful.
psychologist.
Careful with that one. No, I don't want to psychoanalyze you, Daniel. I just want to be your friend.
Oh, we're good. We're good. Thanks for being my good friend, Jack.
I do too much of that at work.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you so much. We'll be back next week. Really looking forward to it. Take good care of yourselves in the meantime.
Toodaloo. Bye-bye.
Bye.